In this video, we're going to go over parent-child, what that is, and also actually show you how to create an inscription that uses parent-child. Now, for those who aren't familiar, the easiest way to kind of describe or visualize parent-child is imagining like a family tree. So the parents can have children and the children themselves can have children as well. So you end up with, a complex hierarchy of inscriptions. Now, the benefit of this is you can actually trustlessly prove. Now, the benefit of that is you can actually prove ownership over the parent, because what you're doing is during the creation of the provenance or the parent-child, you're actually including the parent in that transaction. And I'll show you quickly an example. So this is the parent, unfortunately, and this is the children as well. So you can have multiple different children here. So you imagine that family tree. We've got the one parent at the top, and then you can have the multiple different children here. And a really great thing about this is you imagine having a collection. So I want to prove that I am the creator of this collection. I could have my one at the top, and then all the children go under here. So you imagine you could almost label this collection. So you can have all them in that one collection. And the last thing is you can actually send this to a address which is inaccessible, and that way no more children can be created because this doesn't exist anymore. And I'll really quickly just touch on that again, because when you create an inscription, a parent-child with provenance, you include the parent in the transaction, and you also include the parent ID in the transaction. So to reference this back to the one we just looked at, this here is what the inscription content of the new inscription in this transaction. And you imagine that would have been child. And this is the ID of the parent. So after OP push 3, this is the parent up here, and that's the ID we would have been using. And that's going to make a bit more sense once we actually go through a bit further, but let's dig in. But first, before we dig in, I would highly suggest, if you are interested in doing this stuff yourself and getting ahead of the curve, because if you are able to download all this software and get started, you're going to get the features before, common websites have them. So at the moment, I don't think you can actually create parent-child anywhere else besides setting up your own Bitcoin core and the old client as well. So, and it goes through all the instructions how to do it. There's great videos like Paz. Paz is a legend. Go follow Paz. And he shows how to actually set up a Bitcoin node and Ord wallet. And Inscribe as well. He goes over that in the video. All right, let's get into enough talking. I've already got all my commands ready to go, so we'll just talk about them as we go. But first thing I'm going to do with my Ord client, so this is my Ord client here, and this is my Bitcoin node. I've got Sparrow wallet there, which we're going to use Sparrow wallet just so you can visualize what's happening at the same time. All right, so we've got my 12-word passphrase. I'm going to copy that and hide that somewhere safe. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to import. I've got rid of this passphrase on here, so I don't actually have to blur it out the whole time. But what I'm going to do is import that wallet into Sparrow. So new wallet. I'm going to call it Ord example. And it's a taproot. Change that there. And we're going to import 12-word. And next screen you'll see will be the wallet loaded up. All right, so now that I've imported my wallet, we can actually see all the addresses here. And the reason why I do this is because you don't really have a way of seeing your wallets or balances easily with the Ord client. You don't need to do this, but I just find it kind of interesting to see how it goes as well. So we're going to copy and paste and get a receiving address. And as we can see, we've got a receiving address ending in AD10, and it's the one at the very top there. So what I'm going to do now is actually send some funds across. So we've got funds to create those inscriptions with. All right, so we can see that I now have received 50,000 sats. And what I'm going to do is go to the UTXO and actually give it a label. So we're going to call this funding inscriptions, just to make things a little bit more clearer as we go. So this is the beauty with Ord. It's actually very simple to create your own inscriptions once you're up and running. So what I've done is I've got a inscriptions folder, and it has a child and a parent, and basically they're just text files, and they can be called whatever they want. You can have whatever text files you want, and you can have, HTML files, JPEGs, PNGs, and stuff like that. But bear in mind, these are 1 kilobit, so it's very little data, so it's going to cost me very little to inscribe, and that's why I'm doing that for this demo purposes. But so all I need to do is know the paths of these here, and I know that they're just in the D drive and inscriptions folder, and then they call this here. we're just going to copy and paste this one here. So the command is ord, and then it's wallet inscribe fee rate, and we don't need 30 probably. Let's just go, and the thing you want to do is check out what Memple's doing. So Memple is, do I need to refresh? Memple's at 4 sats per vbyte, so that's quite beautiful. So we'll just I'm just going to go 10 to play it safe, and then the file location, and so mine is D inscriptions and then parent.txt. So once we enter, that's just sending it off for a commit and reveal. It does have to index some transactions, so this is pretty normal. All right, so we can see a couple of things just happen, but we'll run over this screen first here. So there's the commit transaction. So it's two different, it happens in two different parts when you create your inscription. There's commit and the reveal. So the one that we're interested in is a couple of different things really, is like this is your inscription ID already. So what you'll notice is this is the reveal transaction, which is actually the same as this here, which is your inscription ID, up into the index number. So we know the inscription is at index 0 of this transaction. And already we can see that it's the same thing there. That's the transaction output is actually the same as this one here as well. So what we're going to do is just label this one here, and we're going to call it parent. And that's spare inscription, spare for inscription. So that was the remaining funds that got sent back to our wallet. And then this is the parent inscription. So as you can see, it all ends up, at different addresses. So we can see the spare for inscriptions and the parent are at different addresses as well. So the funding inscription is the one that we originally had is now at 0. It's sent the change to this different address here, and the parent is in this same account. All right, so now what we need to do is, and we will go have a look at this reveal transaction. And all right, so we're going to wait for a little bit, wait for that to be confirmed, and then we can go on to creating the child, and we'll run over how that's done. But we can actually already start getting ready for the child because we know the inscription ID, and that's the part we need over here as well. So as we were talking about before in the inscriptions, when creating a parent child, you need to use the command ord wallet inscribe fee rate, the same as what we did before when creating. And then you want to use the command parent and then the ID and then the file. So that pretty much looks like what we've got here. And what I'll do is, and this is the inscription ID already that we've already got. And I can just put it there so I don't have to mess around once it's there. So once the child is actually confirmed, we can just hit enter on this, and then we can, once the parent's confirmed, sorry, we can just hit enter on this, and then away it goes. But I'll run over it one more time. So we've got the ord, and then the cookie file, just ignore this. That's what I have to do on my Windows setup. Then wallet inscribe fee rate. Once again, we probably don't need the fee rate to be 30, so we'll look at adjusting that. How cool that Memple's so low. Benefits of being Australian. There we go. And then we'll -- parent, and then you've got the inscription ID. Now the inscription ID, remember, it always has an I at the end, so that's one way you can check to make sure you've got the right one. And then we've got where the file of the child is located on the computer. Brilliant. So I'll be back once I've got a confirmation on that transaction, and then we can look at creating the child for this one. So we're back, and that transaction is now being confirmed. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to go back to, and we can, let's actually use this one here. And we're just going to go back to our browser. That's a very quick block. Brilliant. Okay, so you can see my inscription was OMB radioactive symbols either side, because that's how we do it. And the ID, as we mentioned before, the ID was the one ending in I0, and that's the transaction of the reveal, and then there's actually index, so it's indexed in the very first of that transaction. So we've got all this stuff correct. So now I'm ready to hit enter, and then we've got a 20 sats per vbyte, brilliant. Now it's just indexing again. We just had another block go through. What's going on? Now I'm probably going to wait like 40 minutes so you can see the child. All right, and Sparrow's just said something's happened, so let's go back and have a look there. All right, so now you can see it does look a little bit different here as well. So you've got the commit, the inscription. So that's our new inscription. That should be the child. And then you've got the parent. So we already knew the parent based off what we put in before. And then you've got the reveal transaction. So let's copy this. And then let's have a look at the structure of that transaction as well, because it will look a bit different. All right, so it looks a little bit different. So what you can see is the parent comes in and goes back to your wallet. So we'll know that the parent is now at the address ending in V76T. And then the child is created, and that's from the funds that we had originally that was left over for inscribing. So it comes out, and then now we have the child. So it's the output of 10,000 as well. All right, so if we go back to Sparrow, we should be able to kind of get a bit of an idea over where things are. But what we're looking at is this is the first index of that transaction. That's the second, so it'll be 0 and 1. So if we go back to Sparrow, at the same output, so the same transaction, we can see 0 and then 1. So this should be our parent. Once it's confirmed, we should be able to see that. And this should be our child. All right, so now we just have to wait for this block to confirm, and then we're able to see what I've created as my child. All right, so now that we have a confirmation, we can actually go back, and let's minimize this one here. And let's go to the parent. Actually, I'll have the parent already loaded up. So as we knew we had OMB there, let's just refresh that. If we scroll down, cannot be stopped. So we can see that's the children there. You could add other little slogans or phrases there. That'd be pretty cool. Hey, that's the end of the video. I hope you learned more about parent-child and now have a bit more understanding and go create your own. Thanks for watching.